Hello, Andrea Shabaglian here. I am so thankful that you are joining me in this 3-part series of Motherhood, an Honest Look. This began very different than how it has ended, but I, along with Natalie Meyer, a partner in this project, I am so proud and humbled and honored to be a part of this conversation, Motherhood, an Honest Look. This project first started when I was put into a side Zoom chat with a friend who is a new friend. Her name is Amy Parks, and you'll get to hear from her in a little bit. But she shared a story with me where she was judged by another woman based on her own experience of trauma. And I had asked if she would be a guest of mine and kind of have a conversation based upon we can't determine other people's trauma and we don't get to judge. And then it was just a couple days before Mother's Day, and I've always been sensitive around holidays, especially holidays that are larger like Mother's Day, when we all have different experiences. For myself, part of my story is I was raised by a single mom and a single income, and I have 2 young children of my own. And I recall knowing, just even in my elementary and junior high years, of other women and other moms who would talk about my mom because she was a single mom and not in a positive way. And so I'm passionate about motherhood, and I saw that this was a much bigger community that needed to be a part of this conversation. And so you get to hear and join me in a conversation with 14 other incredible women who share just a very small part of their stories and their journeys, but they open up in a vulnerable and raw, real human way. Some are mothers, some are not. Some desire to be a mom, some have lost their mothers, some have had difficult relationships with their moms, some have difficult relationships with their children, some have had an abortion, some have children who have mental health issues and concerns. But all are willing to share a part of their story. So for the purpose of this video, we have 3 goals. 1 is to bridge empathy. 2, to share perspective. And 3, to spark hope. Hope in all of us. Whether we are a mother, desiring to be a mother, whether we have lost our mom, whether we have a hard relationship with our mom or our children, or we are a mentor to many around us. All of us have an opportunity to give and to do better and to be a little bit more sensitive to the people around us. My dear friend, Kristen Risch, who you will also hear from later, says this: moms are powerful. Their words give us strength and/or become remnants of pain. Each mom sacrifices in the ways she knows how to provide a soil her kids can grow in. Some have better tools and skills, but all moms give and sacrifice for the sake of their children. I know moms who never feel like enough. I know daughters who never feel like it's enough. Whether you are a mom, we're all daughters, but you might be a mom directly or indirectly. You might be a mentor to so many in your community and giving back. You have the ability to spark hope and to influence your community. And I hope this community of women do that for you. And you know that you are not alone in your thoughts, in your fears, in your pain, in your comparisons, and your expectations. Blessings upon you. Motherhood, an Honest Look, Part 1. I'm just thankful for you guys and being willing to share just a part of your story. We also think that from this, there'll be many sort of one-on-one conversations that we would like to engage. Could you now introduce yourselves? Can you just kind of tell us your name, what you do, something about you as it relates to this conversation?
My name is Keena McFadden, and I was a young mom, 17 years old, my senior year in high school. I'm blessed to have 3 children. 2 I had of my own. One I adopted, my foster son. I adopted him into our family, and so now I'm a mother of 3. I'm currently, I'm a working mother, caring for my mother, and my youngest, which is my daughter, is 22. She's a young mom now, and she's full of baby, getting ready to give me a grandson. So I'll be a grandmother coming soon.
My name is Darina Lazo Gilmore Young, and I am an author and speaker. My girls are ages 8, 11, and 14, and I was widowed in 2014 and remarried in 2016. So I'm a remarried widow, and I'm a foodie, and I'm a runner. And I am passionate about teaching people how to chase after God's glory.
I'm a mom of 4 girls and a nana to 8, and was privileged to be able to be home for most of their upbringing. And now I am a photographer, and I get to use that gift being involved with Camp for Kids with Cancer, which is real close to my heart. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I love Jesus.
Hi, I'm Kristen Risch, and I am a mom. And I have a couple awesome and wild kiddos who run my schedule. And sometimes, occasionally, it feels like they run my life too. And along with that, I work full-time at a local community college, and I teach in the communication arts. So all the classes everybody loves, like public speaking and interpersonal comm and group communication. Yeah, that's my jam. And on top of that, I have been married for 17 years tomorrow, and we are just kind of going with the flow, or like we like to say in our house, we're riding the wave.
My name is Dominique. I am a mother of one and only child of a daughter named Naima. So currently I'm staying at home and being a teacher and a guider and a chef and a maid all in one. My first time ever getting pregnant, I had a forced abortion due to some unfortunate circumstances. And my second time getting pregnant, I had a typical pregnancy. So I was told that I would never have children. If I was, it'll be high risk, and I can have another fallopian tube lost, and I'll be sterile. And something told me, no, I trust a higher power. It was like a gift, a promise to me that I would be a mother. And so I didn't know how or when, but yeah, it happened, and God is good.
I'm Amy Parks. I am a licensed clinical social worker and an infant mental health specialist. I am married. I've been married for almost 18 years. My husband's a firefighter, and we have 4 children. My oldest is a freshman. We have 2 7th graders and a 6th grader. You know, my first pregnancy, it was a loss. And then it took a year to get pregnant again. And so then I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to take a long time to get pregnant. So we might as well just, whatever. And whatever happened. And then it was, okay, we're done. But then God had another plan for us. And so we got our 4th.
Chelsea Thompson, and I am the Connections Director at the Well Community Church. Love my job. And I am been happily married for almost a year and a half. Not really, it's been like a year and 3 months, but quarantine makes it seem longer. So it's been like 5 years, right? It's going great. We don't have any kids yet, but we're enjoying getting to know what life looks like with 2 of us instead of just one.
My name is Bethany. I'm 35 years old. Currently, I do still work for a company called Tech to School. I'm a sales support manager, and then I do a couple of side hustles, mostly photography. I have my own photography business. I do portraits, children's photography, baby photography, basically anything that I can shoot my camera at, I'll do. And I love it. Married, and We have a 2.5-year-old, and we are 3 weeks away from having our second girl. 15 years ago, I had an abortion, and it really changed who I am today. I'm really open to talking about it. I've actually always wanted to kind of share my testimony.
My name is Wilma Tom Hashimoto, and professionally, I'm the Executive Director of CASA Fresno Madera counties, where we have 2,600 foster youth. I'm actually joining this conversation as a mother of a child who had a typically developing, actually a normal childhood, excelled in everything, but at 18 started displaying some mental health issues. And that's a story that I want to share, one, as an Asian, because Asians don't share. Two, that's not the stereotype that you think of when you think of Asians. And three, it is my goal in life, as well as my daughter, who's doing much better, to be able to have those authentic conversations and not have children or families to suffer in a silo.
My name is Amina McGinsey. I'm a Jesus-loving librarian out at Fresno Pacific, which is a local Christian college here. I have one child now, and I'm expecting 2 more in the fall. And my journey to motherhood is not usual. I didn't see myself being a mother, and then when I did decide that I wanted to be a mother, it wasn't easy, and it made me really grow in faith, to really realize I needed to rely fully on him, and it makes me want to be better for those around me, and it's really just kind of made me just a better person all the way around. So looking forward to sharing.
Summer Whitley. By day, I am a college admissions counselor, and I also help individuals develop their personal brand and portfolios. By night and every other time of day, I'm a mother, a wife. I love to cook. I'm a writer and soon to be blogger, about to release my blog, obviously on the first day of summer. As far as journey to motherhood, I was relatively young. My husband and I have been together since he was a senior in high school. He's younger than me. He was 17, I was 18. We got married. He was 20, I was 22, because I'm a year and a half older. And we had our daughter relatively soon after that. So my daughter is almost 16 now. One thing about us that sometimes shocks people a little bit is we are a biracial family. My husband is African American. Obviously, I'm white. And so that throws people off sometimes when they meet us individually, but it also ties into our journey. And as you get to know more about me, you know, the situations and circumstances that surround that.
My name is Denise Sandifer, and I'm a single mom who has adopted a young man out of the foster care system. I have a stepdaughter and a stepson also, and I work for Clovis Unified as a counselor and social worker for Clovis Community Day School and Gateway High School. And I also am 27 years clean and sober, and I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I am involved with Celebrate Recovery, and you know, those are all things that have been part of my journey and has gotten me where I'm at today. So that's who I am.
I help direct music at Campus Bible Church at one of our locations. We have 2 locations. I actually work with Andrea's husband. And right now my kids are in school and I'm just busy. My husband's a contractor. So, well, they're not at school now with all the COVID stuff, but he's a contractor. So I run his business, the behind the scenes stuff, all the paperwork. I write paychecks, do taxes, all that stuff. So I do have a lot that I juggle.
My name is Jennifer Thatcher, and I am a mother to my biological daughter who is 12 years old, and I am also a foster mom. So I have a very different dynamic here. My biological daughter I share custody of. I'm single. So she goes back and forth 50% of the time. And currently I have a teen mom. And so I have a 2-year-old grandson, and I just took placement of now he's 10-week-old baby. So I have 4 kids in my house, and being a foster parent has so many challenges, but it's so beautiful at the same time. When you take in these children, you don't know if you're going to be able to adopt them or how it's going to happen. They give parents normally a chance to reunify. So that definitely comes even with losses, and it's ups and downs because you just don't know what your journey is. And it's been motherhood for me has even been a full journey of just completely trusting God and all of it and writing all of these children's stories. But it is the biggest blessing in my life is to be a mother to all these kids. And so far I have been a mom to 9 children. So it's incredible.
In your own words, how would you describe the hardest challenge facing motherhood or the idea of motherhood?
It means a variety of things. First and foremost, right out the blocks that it's a gift to be a mother. It takes unconditional love to be a mother. It's a lot of hard work, and it's very challenging.
As we look at motherhood, whether we look at the examples set before us or the sense of legacy that is ahead of us, there's this level of pressure or standard, either that I should want to be a mother, or that I should be a mother at a certain time, or I should be a certain type of mother, or that my kids should be a certain kind of way, look or act, or whatever it is. And that we are kind of our own worst community to some degree. I think if any mother has ever met another mother, it's almost like it's bred into the language of motherhood to communicate expectations or standards.
The greatest challenge for mothers is that no matter what stage that they're at, you never stop worrying. And I so remember being as a new mom, it's like, oh my goodness, you have so much hope, and it's like, I wish they could speak and tell me what's wrong. And then it's like, oh, I wish they could walk, I wish they could dress. And then you start worrying, it's like, well, do they have the right friends? And then they get their license and they become independent. You worry, it's like, what happened to that daily control that I had? So it's just, you always worry, but it's a different type of worry, and you worry about something different all the time. And trust me, you think you have it all figured out? No one does.
There's mothers that were adopted. I was adopted at 3 months old, and I was adopted by a mother who had no children, but she mothered the community. Like, she was the mother of the community. And now I'm taking care of my mother on top of having my own 3 children. And then now my youngest is having a baby, and I'm going to be a grandmother. So motherhood to me is full circle, man. I mean, we're talking not 1, 2, 3 generations, but now I have a 4th generation on the way. My biggest challenge now with knowing the 4th generation is on its way is changing the narrative. Like, what have I done to not, to help eliminate those obstacles for my daughter and to be the mothers that we're chosen to be.
And then there's like a child enrolled, and immediately there's everyone around kind of assessing the kid, like whether it's a physician, which is their job for health, or an educator, or your parents, or family members. Like, there's just constantly some kind of standard that's being communicated, and you're being told whether or not your child or yourself or your methods or your chaos is measuring up, So I would say that definitely the hardest challenge facing motherhood is expectation, either from self or, internal or external.
I would say the hardest challenge is trusting that God has it all figured out already, and that He has entrusted me with these kids, and He loves them more than I could ever imagine loving them. With my family dynamic and having a biological daughter who I share custody of, and also foster children that reunite with family, trusting that God has a plan for them and His story. He's the one writing the story, and it's going to be a beautiful one. And I just have to trust Him because, he just put these kids here, whether it be for 1 day or 2 days, or 2 weeks or 2 years. His plan is always bigger. So trusting him was the hardest part in this journey.
Just the unknown, the uncertainty of it all, and like the realization that you'll have a little life that you'll be taken care of and just responsible for. But it's a huge gift and one of the greatest joys ever. So, just kind of just roll the dice and see how it goes,
A pressing concern that I see mothers facing more and more is the idea of competitiveness and instant results. And so I know as the world becomes more competitive, I have a teenager and then a son who's going into junior high. And so teaching them how important and the values of that instant gratification, that instant satisfaction, we put all of this pressure on them to perform. And then we wonder why they turn around to social media and to the world and seek instant gratification and acceptance and stuff like that, versus placing more emphasis on their character, their integrity, the ability to fail and get back up. And so I just see this decline in the ability of our children to handle the pressures that the world is putting on them. And I feel a lot as a mother, the pressure to constantly have to take a step back and reevaluate what is important and where we place our values, and not even necessarily just where we spend our time, but why you're spending your time there, what you're learning from spending your time, because you can use your gifts and you can be competitive, but you can do it in such a way that's still glorifying to God.
I want to make sure that my children don't have to heal from their childhood. I am doing a lot of healing from my childhood and young adulthood, and I just don't want that challenge for my children. Having my son was just one of the hugest blessings in my life, but it was followed, prior to me being pregnant with him, I had multiple pregnancy losses. I had a hard time conceiving. I had a hard time maintaining the pregnancy once I did conceive, and I had very few answers. It's really grown me in faith to go through that challenge, and made me a better mother because I've dealt with so much loss and tragedy before I got to him, and then even loss after him, and just knowing that God uses you in those ways to make you better, and hanging in there, being faithful.
So I love being a mom. I really love everything about it, but it is the hardest job in the world. And I think the idea of motherhood, or the idealization of motherhood, or the fantasy of motherhood is what makes it difficult for some. Pregnancy and motherhood is painted as this kind of joyous time, this ideal, state almost. You should feel happy, you should feel fulfilled, you should love everything about it, you should bounce back after giving birth. And the reality is that that's not a lot of women's experience. I think it's hard when moms realize that it's not this idealized experience that they were expecting. And then they internalize that as, I'm not a good mom, or there's something wrong with me because I can't do this. And then I think when you add in the possibility of having a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder, that just kind of exacerbates those feelings. It was really hard for me. I had a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder, and it was really hard because I wanted a baby for so long, and then I finally had one, and it definitely was not the experience that I had hoped for, that I prayed for, and I did interpret that as, wow, maybe I can't be a mom. Maybe I can't be the mom I always wanted to be.
I think motherhood for me is a complicated word to define. I think that based on the season of my life, it's carried a different weight. I lost my mom to cancer as a teenager, and I think, at that point, I think I took for granted what a mom was. I realized what life was like without her, and I didn't prefer it. And so the reminder of not having her, so the reminder of Mother's Day, the reminder of her birthday, the reminder of seeing people with their moms brought a deep pain and brought this feeling of, I want to avoid it. I don't want to acknowledge it. I don't want it to exist. So even from like being on a walk and seeing a mom and a daughter at a park or walking, it would instantly bring this this deep sadness that I didn't know how to express, because I felt a longing to have somebody unconditionally love me, a longing for somebody to know me, a longing for somebody to go, oh yeah, you are half of me, and so I get it. And I get why you have such a big rear end, and I get why, you laugh the way you do, and I get why your eyes are the way they are, and I love all of that about you, and it exasperates me.
My oldest is a freshman in high school, and I still many days wonder if I'm doing it right. It's one of my fears that that I wouldn't be a good mom, and that's going to impact, their life, right? And the adult they grow into. So I feel like I'm still on that journey. I think I learn every single day how to give myself grace and how to be kind to myself and know that it's okay.
Longing has been a good word, because as I've grown and as am now married, there's a different longing for me to be a mom. There's a longing for me to one day embrace that, but also a fear of, is that what the Lord has for us? While feeling so sure the Lord's created me to be a mom, I can't see past how old my mom was, if that makes sense. So a motherhood past the age of 47, I don't understand, and I don't see in my life. And so that's a fear. So I think motherhood is complicated. It's a longing of my heart. It's in both ways, to feel the love of a mom again, to have the love of being a mom, and so confident that the Lord has gifted and created me in that, and yet so fearful that is something that I'll never experience on either side again. So
I always had like the idea of what being a mom was going to be like, all the way back from when I was in high school. I even had like boyfriends, relationships with people who were like, well, don't you want to do anything with your life? Like, I'm like, yeah, I want to raise kids. There was this huge expectation that I think I put on myself before I even became a mom or got married. And I was constantly seeing my friends, get out of high school, get married, have kids. And I was like the only one that hadn't. And I got into my 30s before I met my husband. I guess in a way I never really gave up on like the idea that one day I'm going to get to be a mom. As long as you want to be there and you want to experience it and you want to take care of them, like that I think is enough at all costs, really, that you are actually trying to be there and be present and be like the mom that you can be, really. So I think that that's kind of what has given me my idea of motherhood. It was a long journey to get here, but I got here.
There is 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000 decisions that we have to make. And sometimes we have to make those decisions for our families, and sometimes we have to mentor our young people, our littles, along as they're making their own decisions. And I think one of the ways that I would describe that is a phrase that a mentor friend of mine who's also a writer, Emily P. Freeman, she uses this phrase, decision fatigue. And I think it describes what mamas are swimming in every day. We are in the midst of so many decisions, and especially when we have kids, especially if we have multiple kids who are different ages, different personalities. So I see that as something that I have to be mindful of as a mama, and even measure my own energy by how much decision fatigue I have. And I think that also points me towards times where I need to have soul care, where I need to rest, when I am especially fatigued. But we are just bombarded by so many decisions each day, and we are being asked to navigate all of these decisions in the wisest, most amazing way. And sometimes it's hard to get to that place when we're tired.
One of the biggest things I see the challenges are is just finding that balance. You know, I think there's so many pulls, societal pulls that are out there between social media, your activities with your kids. I mean, right now we're in a different time because of what's going on, but when we're in a normal lifestyle, I just see my kids just kind of running from one thing to another. I just feel like there is more of a pull to be involved in everything, also being able to make time to be with the Lord, you know. So you get so busy that it's hard to, you know, carve out those pockets of time that you really need to be able to fill your soul.
I actually do have the power as a mama to say, this is too much right now. I actually am going to rest, maybe take a nap, but it doesn't mean necessarily sleeping. There's a lot of ways that we can rest our bodies and our minds. And I think it speaks to the fact that even if we are mothers coming from different demographics, different cultural backgrounds, different economic backgrounds, that we all do face that kind of decision fatigue. So being able to call it out is really powerful.
For me, I've got a very different perspective. I'm an adoptive mom. And so I think as an adoptive mom, the biggest challenge and worry that I had was the fact that I wasn't sure what my son or my child was going to come with, what kind of issues. When I first got my son, he was 3 years old, and he came from a family where the mom was a drug addict and dad was a drug addict, and did not get a lot of his needs met. So at 3 years old, I was dealing with a young man that was calling all my friends mama and mommy, and my son was having night terrors and he couldn't be by himself. So I struggled a lot with that, with him and the trauma that he dealt with. And it's been a ride, I'll tell you. He's had a lot of learning difficulties and a lot of different issues that have come up. And you know, little did I know that was going to happen. But what I also knew for myself was that no matter what, when I adopted my son, he was my son. I gave birth to him. So no matter what happened, no matter what challenge he's given me, I was going to stick by him no matter what. And it's been a mission, and you know, one that I'm thankful for, and one that I've had to turn over to God.
When I first had my babies, I did not reach out to anyone. There was a lot of pride there for me. And so going back to the beginning of when I first started having kids, and this challenge kind of goes a little bit further back, is I was taught and bred that I was going to have kids and homeschool them, and it was all going to be wonderful. And it wasn't all wonderful. And I ended up putting them in school. And so the hardest year of change was the most challenging year of my motherhood journey so far. And that was taking him from homeschooling and those expectations and putting him in public school.
I think when we get pregnant or when we have children, we think, you know, we're going to have the little kid that's a little athlete, he's a little star, he's going to do all these great little things. And he had so much anxiety, so much fear of abandonment, so much, you know, and those expectations that I had of this kid that was going to do all these little great things, and my family had, that was the other thing. It was the opposite. So, but I'll tell you, eventually he played football, he played water polo, he swam, and those were the gifts of what I had. So, you know, you take what you get when you're a parent, and you just look at the blessings that you have, and that gives you so much hope.
And 2 of my kids have special needs. My oldest one is dyslexic, and my second born was diagnosed with Asperger's last year. He also has a couple other things going on right now. But that's been the hardest struggle, and being myself in all of that, not trying to cover it up, not trying to be ashamed of it. That's probably really been hard for me. That may not be a challenge for everyone else, but definitely for me, I like to hide from that. I don't want to show everybody all of my stuff. Being able to reach out to people is so important, and I've just now started learning that this year. And so that has helped a lot with the struggles that I'm going through right now.
Hang in there. You know, this too shall pass. You just have to show them that you are there for them. I used to lay down by my son and just lay next to him, and then eventually he started feeling a little safer and safer, and finally I was able to eventually crawl out of the room, you know, and he was able to sleep, but it took a long time. Show them that you love them, and eventually it'll work itself out. And if you need extra help, go get extra help. There's a lot of people out there that deal with trauma that are there to support you, psychologists, counselors, self-help groups. They're out there to help, so you're not alone.
What I quickly realized is that every mother is a fighter, and you don't know how hard you're going to fight until you're in the midst of it. And so you just embrace motherhood and embrace the journey and just lean into God, is what I always say.
These women are so incredible. Some of them I have been friends with for a long time and many years. Some I have just recently gotten to know. Some I've just known because of COVID. And actually a few I've met for the first time across the Zoom screen. But all of them have enriched my life, and I hope they have enriched yours. I think about Amina when she shares that she wants to make sure that her kids don't have to grow or heal from any pain from their childhood. And I think about my dear cousin Chelsea, who shares not knowing the idea of motherhood past the age of 47. And many who spoke, Dorina who spoke about decision fatigue, and many of expectations of other moms in our mom community, and expectations compared to social media and other influencers. I hope and I pray that some empathy was bridged, that you were able to hear their perspective, and it sparked some hope in you. Some hope to do better and be better as we all work with what we have, what we've been given, and what we have before us and the opportunities. So come back in the next week or so and join us for Motherhood, An Honest Look, Part 2, as we ask the question, what was a life experience that changed you or gave yourself empathy for either yourself or for others? Motherhood, An Honest Look.